Today, the Vatican issued a manual to help bishops and dioceses follow church procedures in handling of accusations of clerical sexual abuse of minors. The vademecum, or handbook, issued by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, is one of the last documents promised by the Vatican following its February 2019 abuse summit. Joining me now to talk more about this is Father John Paul Kimes, Associate Professor of the Practice at Notre Dame Law School. Father, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's an honor to be here with you.
Well, Father, I know that you worked at the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith for about 11 years, and I know that you were involved in these initial drafts of this document. In what ways does this manual help bishops and dioceses, and what topics does it address?
Well, it addresses exclusively the topic of accusations of clerical sexual abuse of minors. So it, in that sense, has a very narrow scope. What it does is it broadly explains the procedures of exactly everything that needs to happen from the moment a bishop receives an accusation to the very moment of judgment. So this manual, the vademecum, is just that. It's a handbook. It's designed to help those bishops in dioceses, particularly where they don't have enough canonical experts, canon law experts, to follow procedures precisely as they could. The other thing that it does, and speaking from experience at the CDF, what it does is it allows dioceses to send documentation that's better prepared to the congregation, which will help the congregation in return to respond more quickly to the diocese and then ultimately to resolve cases more quickly.
In what ways does it help to protect the victims, and also how does it protect the rights of those accused?
I think it helps particularly with the victims, and this is the first time when a victim can look at a single document and say exactly step by step what's going to happen from the moment that the victim makes their accusation. From that very moment, the victim will be able to follow along by reading through the vademecum, which is not a long document, and it doesn't particularly use technical language, or when it does, it explains what that technical language is. So it allows the non-expert, if you will, and particularly victims, to be able to follow a case along. So a victim could ask the local diocesan authorities exactly, where is my case? Have we finished the preliminary investigation? Have you informed Rome? Once that's been done, what kind of process did Rome authorize? And then what are my possibilities of participating in that process? So it arms victims with a greater knowledge of how cases are handled on the technical side between diocesan authorities in Rome. And for those that are for the accused, it reasserts their rights to the protection of their good name. Until anyone is convicted, until a crime is proven. So it also lays out for a priest that's been accused the same thing as the victim, so that he doesn't have to go to a particular canonical expert and say exactly what's going to happen, what am I going to do, how long is this going to take. He can read through the document, and he himself can ask those sort of informed questions to the diocesan authorities. Or if things are taking too long, he now knows what questions to ask Rome. So both the victim and the accused in this case receive the same information, and in that way can both assert their rights more clearly during all of these processes that are described in the vademecum.
Well, Father, do you think having a document like this manual helps to restore trust and credibility in the Church's handling of these cases? And also, in your opinion, what more, if anything, can be done?
Tracy, it's a great question. I think that the best thing that this document can do in trying to restore the credibility of the Church in the face of these accusations is to increase the speed of the processes, so that there's the lag time between a diocese not knowing how to treat an accusation and then the diocese finally getting through an investigation and finally informing Rome. Now that everyone is armed with very clear instructions of exactly what is required at each stage, I think this will help the speed of resolution of the cases while still protecting justice, while protecting everyone's right. It'll just cut out some of the lag time. And I think that the Church's ability to respond more quickly in a more definitive manner, I think that's one of the best tools we can have for to help the Church to aid her in restoring her credibility, particularly around this difficult issue. As far as what else could be expected, I think Cardinal Daria said it well, that this document is going to be a living manual. It is sort of best practices, what the CDF is doing right now, which is the fruit of all the work the CDF has done over the past 2 decades, particularly dealing with this issue. And I think that we can expect updates to this vademecum, to this handbook. I think that as things change, that as more information is received by the CDF, or as different problems present themselves in other parts of the world, the CDF will be able to update this manual in a much faster way than it would be to change the legislation. So it'll be a faster way for the CDF to give clear direction to the universal church, and for, as we said earlier, both victims and accused to be able to have access to that information.
Well, Father, thank you so much for your insight and your time today. We really appreciate it. Father John Paul Kimes, Associate Professor of the Practice at Notre Dame Law School. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Tracy.